We've got about 1,000 watts of heat coming off your bodies right now, which is helping offset. And how much does this house need right now? We can have a look at that as well. And I've got a graph that I'll show you later, but it's around 2 or 2.5 kilowatts today is how much energy is being used. And just for comparison, a more typical house with ordinary things would probably be using something like about 4 or 5 times as much energy as this. So one of the keys to making this house really work well, if you look here, you can see the thickness of the walls. They're 16 inches full of insulation, and it has a couple feet of, a little more than that, I think, in the attic.
36 inches.
Yeah. These windows here, when you, I don't think the cleaner will mind, but if you put your hand on here, this has more insulation than a lot of older homes. They're triple glazed with low E and argon fill, and it's a big factor in the great performance of the house. And the goal with this house is over a period of a year, it will generate as much energy as it uses. So it'll be net zero in its consumption. You can do this as it's called the TED. It's called the Energy Detective. And for about $400, you can buy one of these and have it go on your home. And one of the partners in this house is Bill Elliott, who's suffering away in Palm Springs right now. But he can read from Palm Springs what the consumption is. And he'll probably phone and say, "Oh, there's no energy. What's happening here?" Yeah. He's very on top of these things. So.
The interesting, I'll just make a comment on that. Yeah. The interesting thing is we were reading that just monitoring helps you cut energy costs, and there's lots of measures on that. Mm-hmm. When we hooked this one up, we were shocked at the amount it was using, and we found out that there was a heater on outside heating the fresh air for the last 3 weeks that we didn't know about. So
it just, you can see the
cable's going through, but we thought they'd shut it off, and they told us they'd shut it off, and they hadn't. So we were, so we saved right there about $2 or $3 a day for. Yeah. And
I'll just show you here. This is an output you can get from the TED as well, and this is for roughly 2.5 days. So starting at midnight on January 2nd, and going till about 6 o'clock on yesterday. And the house was using around 6 kilowatts of power at this time here. And then thanks to Brent over here, who let us know that electric heater out there is a real power sucker. And then Ron came along, Ron LePage, and turned the heater off. And right away we dropped from about 6 kilowatts down to about 3 kilowatts. And so, but again, the key, this house here using only this much power at these colder temperatures is the key to its really great performance. And what else you see on here, these little green things below the line here, that's the photovoltaic generation for January 2nd. It was very cloudy, overcast, foggy, and so forth. January 3rd was a better period here. You can see for about 6 hours here it was generating electricity. One of the things about these photovoltaic panels, they work better the colder they are, unlike human beings. Mm-hmm. And so even, this is a far northern climate, cold, but we can still get useful power here. And the little blue bars here are the net consumption. The house was needing this much at that time, but we were generating this much, so the net consumption was only right here. But again, I can't emphasize enough the conservation measures here are the really key elements here.
What would an average house be, you know? if
Yeah, roughly, you know, the same physical size as this. It would probably be something in the range of about 4 or 5 times as much. So, you know, the conservation has really knocked it down.
Is that factoring in the gas BTUs?
Yeah, there's no gas
Yeah,
use
no,
in
no
here.
gas,
Yeah,
so
that's right, yeah, I'm converting gas to here. How many of you know how big the furnace is in your house? Like how many BTUs per hour? Yeah, like in your house, how big is it?
100,000.
100,000 BTUs. Yeah, that's roughly 30 kilowatts is your peak output on here. And this house is running around 2.5. And probably on the coldest day of the year, it might be, say, 3.5 kilowatts.
Even on that
And
really
yours
cold,
is, yours, now generally they oversize furnaces somewhat as well, but definitely conservation first is the, so first of all, who am I? I'm Rob Dumont. I used to be a researcher at the National Research Council and then the Saskatchewan Research Council, and now I have my own consulting firm. And I've been helping out with the design here, and Ron LePage, who's one of the owners of the house here, invited me along to give this talk. And it will be posted on YouTube. And I gave the talk back in November, and I see already about 125 people have shown up. So make sure you get my good side. Right. So quick facts about the sun. It supplies the Earth continuously with about 10,000 times as much energy as we use in the form of fossil fuels. And fossil fuels, you know, are the engine of our society right now. We just came through the Christmas season, and why is Christmas on December 25th? I think one of the main reasons is that it's very close to the time of the year when the sun is lowest on the horizon in the northern hemisphere. And you know, even before the Christian era, there were a lot of the religious festivals, you know, centered around the movement of the sun. Easter as well is related to the, I think Easter in the Roman Catholic Church is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. So a lot of our religious and cultural practices relate more to the sun. Now we've kind of lost that over the last 100 years or so. The second thing is that all of our homes in Saskatoon are already solar heated. The reason being it would be minus 273 degrees Celsius outdoors if the sun were not there. And I think the average temperature on the Earth overall is about plus 15 degrees Celsius. And so virtually you can say every home on the planet is already solar heated. And what we're I'm going to be talking about today is how can we get a little bit more useful energy by passive means in our home. So here's the Verico home under construction, and they're using the sun in 3 ways, actually 4 ways. The sun heats the environment around us to start with. But there's 3 things here. We have passive solar heat through the south-facing windows, and that's the south side of the house there. And then, just to point this out, it's pretty obvious, but there's more windows on the south than there are on the north. And so the house is tuned to the sun. That's important. The second thing is we have photovoltaic panels on the south roof. Someone once described photovoltaic panels as rocks that make electricity. Basically, they are a solid material like a rock, and when the sun strikes it, the electrons are energized by the photons coming from the sun, and that produces useful electricity. And the third thing are